Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the SempreMilan podcast. I'm your host, Ollie Fisher, joined once again by Anthony Torgrud.
Guys, glad to be back. I'm going to be less useful than normal, which doesn't say a whole lot, but I didn't watch the game, so yeah, you'll have to rely on their analysis this week. But I'm here.
You didn't miss much, so
It sounds like I missed a lot of goals. They weren't for us.
Yeah, it missed 5 goals.
I mean,
yeah,
besides, but we lost. So, do you want to watch a loss? So,
no,
that's
why
the
I
thing in
didn't
it.
go back.
Like, it could have been a 6-5 game or something stupid. But if you've lost, you're not rewatching it.
right?
You know, You're not rewatching it, and especially probably you read some of our comments in the chat after the game and thought, I don't need to be in the same headspace as them who've just watched the game. Oh, man. Look, here we are. 11th of December, we're recording this. Monday, 11th of December. And we're in a position right now, of course, we're waiting for Wednesday's game against Newcastle just to put that final nail in the coffin. But our season might be over already. Like that, I don't think it's dramatic to say that. We're now 9 points off the leaders Inter. 7 points off Juventus in second. It looks like being a fight for the top 4 rather than a fight for the Scudetto, which is not what we foresaw happening when we won 7 of our first 8 games. We know how difficult the mission is to qualify for the last 16 of the Champions League on Wednesday night. And it's a battle just to stay in Europe in general. We could crash out entirely. So apologies in advance. This is going to be a bit of a bleak episode, I think, but at least we have got an entertaining game to recap. Just before we dive into what we've got to cover this week, thank you to all of our Substack founding members, Des Windsor McGlynn, Ali Tareen, Tito Mac, Moritz Pullman, Joey Gawler, Kemin, MJ, and Mats. We've been on those 8 guys for a while now, so let's get it to 10. Coming up to the festive season, maybe you could gift a sub to somebody that you know, or treat yourself. Alternatively, not many people.
What does being a founding member mean?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Maddie. What it means is that you get access to all of our bonus content. So if you're just a free subscriber, then you get the weekly newsletter where one topic will be talked about, and then there'll be a news bulletin, which is good for those fans who perhaps don't have the chance to check the news all the time. So it kind of sums up the main topics for them. And then our bonus content, we have regular series such as Loan Watch, all the players we've got out on loan, how are they getting on, including some of the younger players. Meeting the Milan media, so we interview some of the bigger members of the journalistic sphere who cover the team on a weekly, daily basis. Long reads, we've got long form features such as like diving into the club's accounts, looking at transfer strategy, analysing interviews, all that kind of thing. And of course, the bonus podcast, which we record every week about a topic that we don't discuss at length here. So go have a look. You can try it for a week for free if you haven't already, and yeah, hope you like it. And you can another perk of it is that you get to submit your ideas and sort of contribute to what you want to see in the future as well. So it's like becoming part of the SempreMilan board, basically. Okay, right, let's get this over and done with. Atalanta away.
Oh yeah, I gotta put that banner up. Huh? That's on me.
Yeah.
I didn't edit anything. I'm so sorry, boys. Start talking. Give me.
No, that's
here.
okay. I will. I'll go for it. Right. So trip to Bergamo. We know it can be difficult. We didn't win there last year. We drew 1-1. Benacer scored the equaliser. Of course, the whole Pioli cycle nearly ended with a 5-0 defeat against Atalanta. So it'd be fair to say we've got a few skeletons over there. I think the big fear for everybody coming into this one was the defensive crisis, and rightly so. It's one thing to concede 1 goal against Frosinone, but against an attack like what Atalanta have, it was always going to be a bit more difficult to keep them quiet, especially with Teo at centre back against a few forwards who are known for perhaps, I guess, more intelligent movement. As it turned out, we couldn't deal with Ademola Lookman. He scored twice. It's tough to know where to begin analysing this one, to be honest, because, look, nicest thing I can say is it was an entertaining spectacle. Both teams decided to have a go rather than sit back and try play out a low-scoring game. Atalanta also had defensive problems. They had 2 of their 3 starting centre-backs out as well. CDK started against us and looked okay, but missed an absolute glorious chance to score against his, technically where his employers still. Yeah, it was a bit all up. What's that?
Didn't CDK get an assist?
He got an assist, yeah. He
He
got an
did, yeah.
assist. He really should have scored, though. He missed from about 2 yards out. A
Oof.
shot at the far post after a header. It's a bad
Lookman
miss.
should have had a hat trick too. Like
He should,
was
yeah.
missing so many chances.
Well, look, I normally like to go through it chronologically
man.
and analyze what happened on each goal, but I just can't be bothered today. So I apologize, or rather, I don't think it serves much purpose, to be honest, because we all saw what happened. It was a defensive clusterfuck. There was no protection from the midfield. Maddie has often said, like, we play as good as our midfield plays. It just wasn't there. It was attack after attack for Atalanta, who could have been out of sight at half time. If you look at the XG, they had 3.54. We had 1.12. They had 19 shots to our 14. They had 7 on target to our 4 and 4 big chances to our 1. We were level in this game until the 94th minute, and it was incorrect. It was inaccurate. They should have won more comfortably, but in the end, it was a Luis Muriel back heel that served us up a bit of extra agony. It's a bad result in terms of what it means, because Inter would then go on and beat Udinese 4-0 in the late kickoff to put us 9 behind, and Juve had beaten Napoli on Friday night. But it's just like we'd won 2 league games in a row against Fiorentina and Frosinone. We're thinking maybe we can get a bit of momentum back in the league. This would be a statement win. Teo didn't look too bad at centre-back last time. Everyone's putting in a shift. Jovic looks bright again. Got Giroud back in the team. Both of those ended up scoring. But yeah, man, it's just a bad result. A bad result.
There was a time in the first half when I thought Giroud was going to go through on goal, and a defender just like started to challenge him, and it looked like he just had like a mental collapse. He passed the ball backwards. We lost the ball. And I was like, get this guy out of the game. Like, what the hell is he doing? And he goes on to score later in the game, but I feel like that just like summed it up. We just did not know what to do on attack. After the game, AJ goes, should I not watch it? And I was like, well, if you want to watch a AC Milan team who's trying to fight for between 10th and 6th on the table, you can go ahead and watch it. But there was like no fight in the team.
Yeah,
it was tough. It was tough.
You said it was kind of a defensive collapse, and I think that's to be expected when we have to field 3 fullbacks, right? Like, we have 3 fullbacks. Luckily, we have our best center back in Tomori available, but when one of those 3 fullbacks gets a red card, and then you're just basically playing.
You got a red card like very late in the game, though.
Oh, it was? Okay. Well, but still, I mean, now
Yeah,
going
like
into Monza next week, like we only have 2 fullbacks and 1 defender, and we have to somehow field 4 defenders. So I'm curious how Monza's going to look, and for Newcastle, we can only call it Bartazaghi, so it's like we still don't have Kier. It's just, this is probably the biggest medical emergency I've seen from Milan ever, to be honest with you. I know we've been talking about the days and whatnot, but for an entire department to be depleted like this is crazy. We have to rely on youth players now. We're going to have to call up so many youth players. We're thinking about recalling players from loan that we originally sent out because we said, well, they're never going to get minutes. We have too many players available in this department. And now we have to recall them because we don't have anything. I don't want to blame everything on injuries, but Jesus Christ, like, I mean, how much more of this can we take? Like, it's obviously injury related. Yes, performances lack too, but if your entire defense is gone, you're gonna let in goals, and that's what we're seeing. I heard Mignon had a couple great saves, and like, that's fantastic. But how many saves can he make by himself? He needs some backup from the defense. So it's rough.
Yeah. Help wasn't forthcoming for anybody. I think Teo's position was interesting. It was sort of mentioned in the build-up that he was going to be playing as a centre-back again. I wouldn't be able to tell you if we were trying to play with a back 3 or if it was sort of like Calabria who tucked in. And I just couldn't gather what we were trying to do. I think that we were a little bit startled by the fact that Atalanta chose to go 2 up front. Now, anybody who knows about Atalanta knows that formation-wise they are very, very difficult to predict. But they went with Lookman and De Ketelaere up front, and it was Koopmeiners in behind. Then they had Pasalic drop deeper into midfield because they had to play Darun, who's normally a defensive midfielder, at centre-back. So they were a little bit cobbled together as well. But I just don't think that we could cope with the movement. Like, Lookman's a very good striker. He would start for us. He's been a bit hit and miss this season, but he made us look very silly. Just near post runs on every occasion. Could have had a hat-trick, as Maddie said. We did struggle with CDK, to be honest. We didn't pick him up well. He should have definitely had a goal. He got an assist. And then, they bring Muriel off the bench, who perhaps isn't at the height of his powers as he was 3 or 4 years ago, but he's still a ruthless finisher and he's capable of hurting you. And that came like within a minute of Calabria getting his second yellow card, and you can debate to the moon and back about whether that was the cause of that or whether it was Yassine Adli losing his man. I thought the subs in this one were a bit strange as well, which fuels Maddie's agenda. He brought on Benacer for Chukwueze, so all of a sudden we didn't really have an option wide on the right. And then 15 minutes later, Jovic comes on for Loftus-Cheek. So then it sort of kind of restores the numbers and we go 2 up front. And then Adley came on for Reinders with 2 minutes left and the game at 2-2. Now, I'm not saying that we'd be jumping for joy if we came away with a 2-2 draw, because we'd have still lost points in the Scudetto race, but that's a tough spot to throw Adley into. They're pushing more so than us to try and get the winning goal. And it seemed to me like Adley was tasked with playing deeper than Benacer. Not his natural position. He's done it admirably, but not against teams as good as Atalanta going forward. And unfortunately, he didn't pick up his man for the winning goal. Even though Muriel was the centre forward, it was him who was tasked with following him into the box. So it was collectively not a good evening. As mentioned, the XG, the big chances and everything suggests that we should have lost the game more comfortably. And I just wonder where it leaves us. Like 9 points, it's done. It's done. And I don't want to lose all energy and enthusiasm for the season, but I've got a really bad feeling that after Wednesday night, people are just going to be so done with this shit.
I'm just curious.
How much can you take, right? Like, I don't know how much injuries comes down to Pioli. Either the team is not fit enough, so when they're being pushed, they're being injured or getting injured, or like they're just training way too hard. I don't know. I'm not a physio at all, so but like some of the responsibility has to come down to him, as well as like other staff, right? Like injuries have been a issue at the club for a long time. Players get injured. It's like a nature of the sport. But like, I don't know what else you can do, right?
I mean, Leao is a prime example.
Between this year and last year, you look at the table. Last season, Inter lost 12 times. They've lost once this year. Napoli's already lost more times this year than they did last year winning the Scudetto. So does that just say like the caliber of the league has, I don't know, like what does that say about the league here and how it's changed? Like it's a very strange dichotomy from last season, especially with Juventus as well. They were on 5 losses last year at this point. I think they were on 20 points or something like that, 21 points. And now they're on 30 plus. I don't know off the top of my head, but it's interesting how those are the only Inter and Juventus have gone up so much and the other teams have all sunken off. It's a strange mixture. I'm not sure what the reason behind
it's like the teams that are cheating to do good are doing good, right? And the other ones that are following the rules of finance are like, too bad for you.
That's the trophy we get. We made a profit last year. That is something that is worth debating, to be honest. Like, what good is all this financial stability that we supposedly have if we're being outperformed on the field? I have the numbers for this.
The sport is changing, though. Like, people used to buy billionaires used to buy teams as like, look what I have. I'm winning. I have all these trophies. What do you have? And now investment firms are buying teams to invest to make money. It is so hard to make money in this sport. Like, you just look at all the teams that are in massive debt. Look at Everton. Like, they got a billionaire who bought them, and now, like, they have loans on loans on loans and are defaulting on those loans. You know what I mean? Like,
Similar to Inter in that sense, yeah.
Like it just
Everton would
doesn't
beat
work.
us at the moment, by the way. So 2020-21, after 15 games in the league, we were first and we were 1 point above second. We had 37 points and a plus 18 goal difference. So that's pretty good. That's the best it's been under Pioli when it comes to full seasons. 2021-22, obviously the Scudetto season, we were first and we were 1 point above. Sorry, we were second and we were 1 point off first place on 35 points with a plus 15 goal difference. Last season, after 15 games, we were second, 8 points off first. Of course, Napoli were on a ridiculous pace, 33 points and a plus 14 goal difference. 2023-24 this season, we're third, 9 points off first, 29 points, which is our lowest tally by 4 points, and the goal difference of +8, which is comfortably our worst. So yes, Inter on a brilliant pace. You know, the gap has never been wider at this stage of the season for us anyway. But we're also dropping off.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm
the
pointing out. Is
results
every
are
team's
worse.
gotten so much worse, with the exception of those two being Inter and Juve. Milan is 1 loss away from tying last season's tally. Or no, that's not true. We lost 8 times last season, so we're 4 away. But we've already lost more or equal to our Scudetto season. I mean, it's a serious regression, and I think a lot of it, you mentioned all those goal difference, is the lack of availability in defense. Every week, a new defender's out, a new defender's playing out of position, a new defender's called up. Like, yeah, there's other issues as well. You know, Maddie's spot on. The midfield's not always clicking, and when they do, we dominate. When they don't, we get dominated. And the attack is lacking as well. Leao's not really. Obviously, Leao's been hurt too. So we're missing a lot in every sector.
Yeah, but
that goal
also, I
difference
can't.
is
I'm
huge.
gonna agree with the whole injury thing right now. That also comes down to injuries, because when the midfield has a different back four behind them every game, like they don't have trust in the players behind them, just like Mignon does not have trust in the players in front of him, right? So like when the lineup is changing all the time, like the players don't build that trust, right? So
Exactly. They don't have the cohesion.
I'm finding
and let it be known that I blame Pioli for injuries, because it's his medical staff, it's his training methods. Like, it's not I'm giving an excuse for Pioli. I do blame him and I want him out. But the injuries are the real issue here, not the tactics as much, but the training methods are leading to the injuries, in my opinion.
I'm
I mean,
finding
also we
injury
also looked
talk
like
a little
shit
bit.
when we had like most of our full team. So tactics are also
No, we
shit.
didn't.
We
No,
did.
we won
Great.
7 of our first 8 games with most of our first. But also, I'm finding the injury thing like a really tiring narrative, because people are saying it
Me
as in
too.
like we're comparing this season to previous seasons where we've had a fully fit squad. We haven't. We've always had injury crisis problems. The fact is, the common denominator, once you remove it, we're getting worse. Like we're getting worse. Okay. I don't think we've ever really had a situation where we've only got one fit senior centre back. There were a couple of times where we had to play Calabria out of position and stuff like that, but that is pretty bad. However, we've had injury problems every single season, which is something that needs fixing in itself. And yet, previously, we found a way to remain pretty competitive. You know, last season we were never really in the Scudetto race. Napoli ran away with it, but prior to that, when we were really struggling, we found a way. I don't know how. I think the squad was worse, and yet they channeled this energy, and they found a way to get results consistently. We had a burnout probably in January, and then again in March of this year. We went through tough patches in previous seasons as well. In the Scudetto season, we had a moment there, a real wobble in around November, where I think we won in 4 games or something like that, and people were saying that's it, title race over. Yet we stabilised and went again, and that's what we hoped we'd done with those 2 home wins back to back. But I don't know. I think people are worrying because that gap to 5th is no longer what it was, and if we don't finish in the top 4, then everything's at risk, you know?
Well, I think we're lucky that Napoli is so bad this year, you know? I mean, like, they're dropping probably to 7th pretty soon, right? They're tied for 7th and 6th right now. Bologna is going to be in top 4 next week. Bologna will beat Roma. I guarantee it. They don't have anyone. They got Dybala and Lukaku out. They have another red card suspended. Bologna is winning that game against Roma. They will be top 4 next season, which is insane. Next week, which puts us in a tough spot because Monza's no pushover either. They're doing really well. Like, yeah, they're 9th, but for them, they're doing really well. They've beaten some big teams, or they've gotten close. They almost beat Juventus this year, except for like a 95th minute Gatti winner, which seems to be a trend all of a sudden in the last 3 weeks. But
yeah, it does. Yeah.
So I mean, Monza won't be that easy as well. We're definitely in for a rough end of 2023. Just a rough 2023 altogether for Milan.
Yeah, really, really tough. There's you can't look back on this year and say it's been positive, and I feel like everything is being put behind this screen of, well, we made a Champions League semi-final, when realistically, we've had minimum 3 different separate crises in terms of results, multiple injury crises. We've lost to Inter 5 times in a row, who look like running away with the league. If not, it'll be Juve, which also hurts. I think we were sold a dream with these 10 signings in the summer, and I'm not going to go for a soundbite and be like, they're all shit. Like, I wouldn't have signed a single one of them in hindsight, because I think a few of them have made big contributions, and injuries is 100% a factor to all this, because we haven't been able to field our first choice starting lineup. And it's not just that, obviously, it erodes depth, and your starters have to work harder, so they're less effective. There's not the same opportunity to build cohesion. Certain players like Chukwueze, they get going and then they have to spend time out. Like, all that, I get it. I just find the injury narrative a tad tiring now. It's performances, it's a lack of chemistry, it's a lack of ideas. We needed an equaliser in the second half of this game, and Pioli was just like, let's throw 2 up front and hope for the best.
Right.
It worked. Jovic scored, and he is the one glimmer of light from this recent period. I think his performances have got progressively better, and he's really knocking on the door for that starting spot now for me. But Giroud scored, so there's that. Another corner, by the way, another set-piece goal. And it counts for fuck all, because we can't defend. We can't keep them out at the other end. I don't know. I don't have any big analysis for this. I don't have any patterns of play to look at or anything. I just think that both teams signed up for a gunfight with all of the defensive problems that they had. We got one. We got 5 goals. It probably should have been 4-1 to them rather than 3-2 in the end. And we're left licking our wounds again ahead of a massive game on Wednesday night and a big one on Sunday. Flop, top and flop we'll do, and then fuck this off. Flop Calabria for me.
He did get a red card.
Got a red card, yeah, and it was silly. It was a stupid second yellow at that time. You could almost understand it more if it was like a Giroud thing where frustration had boiled over because we'd conceded a really big goal or whatever. And I'm not justifying the Giroud thing. He should know far better as well. But the game was 2-2 at this point, and he took someone out near the halfway line. Like, it wasn't even as if he was going to go through on goal or anything like that. He just took him out, and it was a clear second yellow card. I know a few people have been saying that he threw the armband or whatever, and they didn't really like that as the actions of a captain. I'm more so concerned about him leading through by example through performances. I think there's been games when he's been a candidate for our best player, including against arguably the world's best winger in Mbappe. And then in other games where you think he should be fine here, like he didn't come up against a natural winger in this game. They played a 3-4-1-2. There were no wingers, and yet still found a way to contribute in a negative way. So yeah, I'd give him my flop. I guess, AJ, you can be exempt from this, Maddie.
I think it's hard to argue with when you get a red card and then we concede within 5 minutes to not be the designated flop of the game. Yeah.
Chukwueze was poor as well. I don't get it. I don't really get what's going on with him. To be honest, he didn't really look threatening at all. I think it's too telegraphed what he's trying to do at the moment. Midfield kind of struggled to get... I think that's why he brought Benacer on as well in the second half, was to try just give us a bit extra in the middle. And it I don't know, it didn't really seem to work. At no point did I think we were going to go on and win that game, And then...
Do we think Benacer is going to start anytime soon? Because I'd like to see that again.
Yeah,
give him time to get up to match fitness.
Right. I don't know where he's at after this Atalanta game.
How many minutes did he get yesterday?
Half an hour.
About a half hour.
Yeah, I think his first start will be like allocated 60 minutes or maybe even 45, He's gone 15 to 30. So you think logically, he might come off the bench again for most of the second half against Newcastle. Maybe he's looking to start against Monza or something like that. That would make sense.
I would rather
I'd
him
love
start
to-
so he could set the pace.
I'd love to say that what we've seen from Benacer so far has me really excited about him starting again. Maybe it's because he's come into tougher situations, but I just think we need to be patient with his performance levels as well. I don't think we can expect him to be 8 out of 10 immediately. He looks a bit rusty to me. But that being said, he's had, 8 months out, 7 months out. So, yeah, we have got to be patient and it will take time. I just hope that we don't get him into form and then he goes straight to AFCON, which is probably what's going to happen. Or he picks up another injury, knowing our luck. Top is a tough one, but I'm going to say Jovic came off the bench and he took his goal well. Good movement. And I'll give a bit of praise to Giroud as well. He won't get an assist for this, but he is a near post dummy to let the ball roll through to Jovic, who was in a better position rather than just swinging a leg at it. That was good work. But I'm going to give it to Jovic. I think he was
That's
one of the brighter players.
Give it to as well. 2 goals in his last 2 games. So
let's move on then. Champions League action again. When I got a ticket for this game, I was really excited for going, to be honest. Obviously, it was before the Dortmund game, so I thought, probably see a last game shootout between us and Newcastle, and it'll decide who goes through to the knockout stages. After that Dortmund game, I was kind of like, I wish I wasn't going to Newcastle for 2 nights. But here we are. St. James's Park, Wednesday night, 8 o'clock kickoff local time, 9 o'clock Italian time. We face the Geordies, who are actually kind of similar to us in many ways. They've got, I believe it's 9 injuries at the moment, which is tough for them, to be fair. They're in pretty bad form in the league as well. They got hammered by Everton and they got hammered by Spurs. So it's the tale of 2 wounded beasts at the moment. Eddie Howe labelled Newcastle's injury problems a worse situation than any other team. They've got Nick Pope, Sven Botman, Matt Targett, Dan Burn, Willock, Murphy, Anderson, Barnes. I think that's the full list out due to injury. As mentioned, they're having
was the other one.
A Tonali suspension. They're having a bit of a wobble in the league. Bad result against Tottenham yesterday. I watched that game and I thought down the sides they got ripped apart, to be honest, and that's something that we should be looking to target. However, given everything, I just can't find myself feeling optimistic about this game either. We know the scenario. We've got to go and win against Newcastle in front of what will be a sellout St. James's Park crowd. And then we've got to hope that Borussia Dortmund, who are already through and have already secured top spot, do us a favour by beating PSG, who know that they'll be through with a win. So I'm not holding out much hope for this.
Can we qualify if they draw? Because we have head-to-head over PSG, don't we? No, we don't.
No, we lost 3-0. No, we need to win and they need to lose. But if we win, then we secure Europa League because it means we definitely finish above Newcastle, obviously.
I don't know if I want, I think the last couple of weeks I've been saying I want Europa League, but with our injury crisis, I don't know if I do.
Yeah. I kind of agree with that. Oh, sorry, guys. I had a long night. I apologize for the yawns. I kind of agree with that. I do think that Europa League is winnable. Just looking at the teams, there's a few teams that could obviously beat us, and we could also lose to teams that we shouldn't lose to, as we have shown in the league. So anything could happen. I'm not saying it's a shoe-in for us to win, but only trophy we haven't won if we do go to Europa League, and more importantly, if we win it, that's guaranteed pot 1 for next year's Champions League, which is far better than top 4 finish is going to get us. So
yeah,
if we make it happen,
I don't even know
great.
we're guaranteed top 4.
No, we're probably not.
So really, whatever avenue to get us Champions League, we have to take advantage of.
Yeah. But I think the real story of this week is more Dortmund PSG than us, because it's not in our hands, unfortunately. That's the big big key factor. I think we might get the job done here. Their current form is pretty rough. Them being Newcastle, ours is as well. But I think we might be able to show up for this. I don't know why, but we can't win at home. But we do much better away lately. And I don't know. I got a weird feeling that we're going to win, but I don't know if we're going through. That's going to be the big question mark.
I think
I
Dortmund can
think
beat PSG though.
they can, yeah, if they take it seriously. But if I'm them, I'm probably rotating. Like they've already got top spot. You know, I know there's a cash prize for winning games, and who knows, maybe they'll see it as an opportunity to like help us out in some way or help whoever out. But I don't think so. I think PSG needing to scrap for a result will be fine. PSG are actually in good form as well. I think they've won every game since they lost to us, and they're now like clear at the top of Liga. So I expect them to get a result, which would make our game kind of redundant.
I also
But
don't
I
see
would still like
Dortmund
to
lightly.
win, so we don't finish bottom.
Yeah, I don't think Dortmund's going to step off the gas here. You know, I don't know if they're going to win, but these are athletes. They want to always win, right? They're not going to be like, we should lose this one because it doesn't matter. You know, that doesn't happen. That's not a conversation they have. Now, they might field a weaker team, and they might definitely
Yeah,
get
that's
walked
what I
over
mean.
because PSG need the win. But I don't see Dortmund taking it easy or taking a rest here. Like, also the idea of eliminating the top team like PSG gives them confidence going forward in the later stages, knowing that there's a chance that PSG could be eliminated in the group stage is huge for everyone in the Champions League. So I don't think they're going to take it lightly. I think they're going to do whatever they can to get a win, but I don't know if they will.
There's also obviously the psychological thing of say PSG here early on that we've taken the lead, or even that Newcastle have taken the lead in our fixture. The pressure's then on them because they've got to secure a result to go through.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so maybe that would play a little bit, but yeah, I think if you were to rate our chances of going through, like as a percentage. You know, for two big things to need to happen, us to beat Newcastle and for Dortmund to do us a favour, it's like 5%, if that. We love hanging on to hope as football fans, don't we? But I'm just not. I'm going up there for a few Newcastle brown ales and to enjoy myself in the away end, and I'm not expecting to walk out having witnessed a minor miracle. But look, it is what it is. You know, we've put ourselves in this position by failing to take care of business against Dortmund. Also, must say Dortmund's surprise package of the group deserved winners. You know, they won 3 on the spin. Maybe that'll give them a bit of confidence going into the PSG game as well. The opportunity to have like won 4 out of 6 in that group would be absolutely massive for them. But I spoke to Ash.
PSG will be like a huge.
Yeah, and they lost 2-0 in Paris to them as well, so maybe they want to avenge that. But yeah, I asked Ash from NUFC News for a bit of a team news update for the preview that will go out on the website. And he said up until Sunday, so yesterday's game against Spurs, the 11 players they've had fit are basically the ones who have been starting, and they've had to call up a lot of academy products. The team will probably be Dubravka in goal, Trippier, Lascelles, Fabian Schär, and Livramento as the back 4. Joe Linton, Bruno Guimaraes, and Lewis Miley in the midfield, although it might be Longstaff over Miley. And then Almiron, Isaac, Anthony, Gordon as the front 3. Now, the midfield and front 3 is what scares me there, to be honest. I think Gordon will absolutely rinse Calabria, to be honest. Isaac will be very, very tough for either centre-back to deal with. Teo's not a natural centre-back, and he's going to be playing there again. And also, Tomori tends to struggle against the bigger players. And then also, Almiron he's a tricky player. You know, I think he's probably not having as good a season this time around as what he did last season, but he's still a threat. And they've got players like Willock off the bench.
No, Willock's out. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the majority of the squad that's playing, like you said, are starters. You got Nick Pope and you have Botman. Those are the only 2 guys who probably would have been dedicated starters that are missing. Maybe Tonali as well,
Burn.
but yeah, and Burn.
I think
yeah.
Tonali would be a dedicated starter.
Over Miley, who's a young kid. He's 18. So yeah.
Yeah, but I think the big one is Nick Pope, right? I mean, he's a fantastic goalkeeper, and Dubravak. I had to Look at his name there. Dubravka, whatever. I don't do those
No,
Slovakian
close
names.
enough.
He hasn't done well. He's played 3 times, no clean sheets. He's let in a shit ton of goals. Like, he has not done well. So if we could get shots on target that aren't directly at him, we might pull out some goals here, especially with Leao's return. He loves the Champions League. He's gonna want to do something, and hopefully he does. Hopefully we can see Pulisic on the right again. Yeah, I prefer him on the right. I don't know why everyone thinks he's a left winger. He wasn't a left winger until he got to Chelsea, so maybe that's why everyone says it. And we see how Chelsea does with the players, so I don't know why anyone believes that. But anyways, I digress. I think we could do. I think we could get the job done here, but it's not going to be easy.
I think the first goal in this one is massive. I think if we score, then the crowd will probably get on Newcastle's backs because, yeah, as mentioned, they've had a rough recent run and they're kind of at risk of having a bit of a slowdown in their entire project if they were to finish like 8th and get dumped out bottom of the group. So if we get the first goal, then I think that'll be a massive mental boost for the team, but also it'll be a mental blow for them. However, if they get the first goal, I could see us losing quite comfortably, to be honest. Like that's the thing, is that in relative terms, the wobbles in form that both teams have had, like I think we'd probably lose to Spurs at the moment as well, Whereas would they go? Would there you go, and I'm not trying to say Premier League is streets ahead of Serie A, blah blah blah, but like, this Newcastle team is still capable of getting a result against us, even with an injury crisis, because ours is nearly as bad. Should we do a prediction? 3-0 Newcastle. Like I'm not optimistic.
I think we're going to squeak it out 2-1 with a Pulisic double.
I'm going to say 3-1 us just because fuck it. Vibes.
So for the first time ever, we will not have the correct prediction on the Milan podcast. 2 wins and 1 loss. No draw.
Yeah, no draws.
That's a lie, by the way.
Draw would be quite funny because it just doesn't help either team. That would be quite funny. If it was a draw and both teams just out, like it doesn't help anybody.
It's a
play out a
0-0
draw.
Like
3
attempts all game from total. Like yeah, that suck. You know what's funny is, aren't we tied on points? Like as far as leagues go? Let me check. Oh, they'd be below us. They're on 26 points, but 26 points is 7th place for them. For us, that would be 4th place. So a bit of a difference there.
Yep. Let's hope, and we'll see what happens on Wednesday. I hope to be wrong anyway. And we'll see if our European adventure ends. Moving on. So Monza are the next opponents after we play Newcastle. We're away from home on Sunday at the U-Power Stadium. Bad news is early kickoff, 12:30. So that's an 11:30 start time in the UK, and for you guys, 6:30. Is that right? 6, yeah.
6:30 for us. West Coasters, 3:30 in the morning.
You just wouldn't bother, would you?
No, he'd stay up. Old AJ would have stayed up.
No, I used to go to bed and then wake up for him, and that's what I did for Benevento when we conceded a last-minute equalizer to a goalkeeper and gave them their first ever Serie A point. And I was like, okay, weekend ruined.
Brignoli. Yeah.
Brignoli.
So Monza are in the top half again. They beat Genoa 1-0 at the weekend at home. Motta scoring an 83rd minute goal. Before that, they lost to Juve. They had a couple of draws. They've been as low as 16th in the league table. That was after round 1, and it's been a steady climb back up the table since then. They've got a pretty tough run of games coming up, though. They've got us, Fiorentina, Napoli, then Frosinone, then Inter. So they play some tough teams in their next 5 games, and we are the start of it. Obviously, this game means a little bit more than just a game against a local side because of the links with Berlusconi and Galliani. And there's links like Lorenzo Colombo as well, who is on loan from us at Monza, which means that he's going to score on Sunday naturally. But yeah, talented team, bit of an unknown quantity. You don't know what you're going to get with them week in, week out, but they play football the right way. Palladino's a highly rated young coach for a reason. They did really well in their first Serie A season last season. I think that makes them a threat especially given that we'll be tired after our midweek commitments in Newcastle, and especially given the wobble in form that we're in generally. I think we're gonna struggle in this one as well. To be honest, I think they'll be well up for it.
Yeah, do we think we're going to recover any players for this game? Potentially Kier, potentially Okafor,
Potentially Okafor, yeah.
Pellegrino.
Yeah.
I don't know. Those are the ones that say late December. I don't think any of them are really going to be that beneficial to us, but Kier might be nice just to have someone in defense again. I do think Palladino's a great coach. He's one of my top 3 picks to replace Pioli. It's going to be a tough game, but I think we can edge it. I think Monza's not going to be the end of the world for us. I'm just looking at our head-to-head. We've won all but one game against them, and that one game was a draw. So I'm not.
I
many
feel
games.
like they're like just playing better than we're playing at the moment. Just like mindset wise, I could definitely see us taking an L here.
Last season, yeah, I hope not. Last season, they scored 48 goals and let in 52, and they were known for being entertainers in many ways. With it being their first ever season in Serie A, they came up and they gave it a go, and everybody liked what they were doing. This season, they've scored 16 goals in 15 games and let in 14. So it seems that they're going for a different way of trying to win. They've got a couple of clean sheet wins to their name already, but they've only lost by more than 1 goal twice. So they try to keep games tight, and actually, don't know if that might play into our favour, because I feel like the only way that we can win games at the moment is to nick the close ones. Yeah, this will be tough. Like, it's obviously always tough when we've got a Champions League game in midweek to know what the team's going to look like if we pick up any more injuries, if there's going to be rumours of rotation. I think he is going to rotate, to be honest, because there is no winter break anymore around the festive season. So we've just got to keep ploughing on through. I wouldn't be surprised if we hear that maybe Jovic will start this one, Giroud in midweek, maybe Pobega or Adley or someone in the midfield comes in for a change there. Yeah, but hopefully Benacer's fit enough to start. That would be the biggest thing. But like, Reinders has started all but one game this season, and Loftus-Cheek, we need to manage his workload carefully. Hopefully Kier's able to come in as well, so we can have at least 4 players playing their natural position in the back 4. So yeah, whoa, prediction 1-1.
1-0 us. I think Leao's going to get back on the score sheet in his return.
I think 2-1 Monza.
That would be very
guaranteed to
go
win.
and win at Newcastle, maybe go
Whitefish.
through, and then lose at Monza. That would be very
here's the thing,
on brand for
we
us.
will absolutely demolish Newcastle, get through to the round of 16, and then lose on Saturday or Sunday morning. For us.
I mean, that's exactly what happened. We beat PSG and then drew 2-2 to Lecce. So I wouldn't be shocked to see it
From
again.
2-0 up as well.
Exactly.
Second half burnouts is a really interesting thing. Like, there is a piece on the website about our stats in the second half. We really, really struggle. At least this season, the trend is that in the second half, there's a massive drop off compared to the first half. So that's something to look into. And if it feeds into the overall energy thing, like, are we just running off a lower battery this season because of a lack of depth? But it does feel that way. It does feel like we need to be winning. But if it's a 2-goal margin, then we're fucked going into the second half. Right, what are we on now? I can't remember. Oh, yeah,
questions?
Talking points.
Do we have them?
Zlatan's back.
Oh,
do we have them? Your idol is back at the club.
Well,
there we
go. He's been back. We just announced it.
Yeah. Do you know what? Actually, we got a question about that, so we'll move on to questions now because they'll cover some of the talking points. Yeah, you're gonna put that in the timestamps.
Yeah, for 1 second.
Section for
talking points. Fuck off.
Reno84 asks, with the official return of Zlatan announced, and because it's Zlatan, I don't see it as a PR move. But do you see any validity to his role, or is he just going to be a cheerleader?
He would not sign on if he was a cheerleader.
No, it's an advisory role. So basically, he's what Jerry wanted Maldini to step down and be He wanted him to have a say in transfers, but not final say, and not actually making the transfers. Right? He wants him to speak to the targets, or maybe present some targets, and be that middleman between the upper management and the first team players to see like how they're feeling, what they need. So yeah, a little bit of cheerleader, a little bit of like, a big brother, big sister helper type of guy, and then also a bit of a say in the transfer market, but nothing too crazy. He's not a director. He's not making any transfers like that. You're not going to see him
No,
in
they'll
Ibiza
also,
having
and
lunch with Teo.
I think when
Well,
you
they
say
might hang out.
he has a say in the transfer market, just kind of like, hey, what's your opinion of XYZ?
Exactly.
Like
Yeah.
they're not going to
Nothing
be
too
like,
crazy.
hey, approve, no, they'll be like, tell us your thoughts.
Yeah, he could say I don't like this idea, and they could still go with it. But I think they do value his opinion, because ultimately his opinion is what led us to our Scudetto, and yeah, it's a good opinion to have around.
I don't
You
see
always
how
know
there
he's
can be
shaking
any
in his boots.
I don't see how there can be any negative to this really. The worst thing is that it's ineffective. Like I don't think that he's gonna set off a bomb or anything like that. I think that there's a lot of upside to this potentially if he succeeds in that role. Now, obviously, officially, it's down as advisor to Redbird and also to the Milan management. But what the reputable sources are saying is that he'll kind of be a glue between the playing squad and the management, a bit of a go-between. So he will talk to the players on a day-to-day basis at Milanello, and as you guys mentioned, he will have a say in certain things that happen off the field, and also he'll be able to kind of exploit his brand as well, which I think is important. So there's a lot of potential for this to go right, and it's better to have him in the club than to not. And as Maddie said, I don't think he would have accepted a return if he didn't have at least some feeling he's going to have influence, So that fills me with hope. It does feel like a bit of a bandage, though.
Well, and to my knowledge, it's not exclusively Milan. It'll be all the
No,
sporting
Redbird.
endeavors of Redbird.
Yeah.
So, you might see him making a lot of U.S. appearances and just like
But like,
being a
for
figurehead.
example, the big thing that Redbird are trying to do now is get an NBA team in Las Vegas. What does he know about that? I think he's going to be focused more on the Milan aspect of it, but
Yeah,
he'll
of
probably do
course.
some tours as the face of Redbird, which is absolutely fine. That's got to be part of it. And I think that'll massage Zlatan's ego a bit as well. So it serves two purposes. But yeah, I just think it's a tiny bit of it's a big bandage. I think this is what we've had to rush into doing now to get us through to the end of the season, hopefully with some semblance of credibility. But really, we only know how the wound has healed, the metaphorical wound, even though we have got a lot of injuries, when we figure out what the ambitions of the management and the ownership are, particularly for the post-Pioli era. For example, will Zlatan have a say in who the next head coach is? Do you trust him with that say? Would he say, and would he speak to someone like Thiago Motta, who he knows well and he's played at two previous clubs with? Like, will there be more to it than just he's going to put his arm around the shoulder of the players? And are his ambitions going to be matched by the ownership? The fact he's signed a contract suggests potentially, and we've got to be encouraged by that. Gregory Peck, as a fan, does it concern you seeing that Redbird are looking for investors and cash injection? And if the stadium plans don't go through, do you see them selling the club?
No, I think that Jerry, like, he's been sustaining the club for the year that he's owned it. But I also think that he knows what it takes to build like a top club in the world, and he's smart enough to know that he can't do it on his own. I mean, look at Everton, right? They had a billionaire owner. They went to go build a new stadium, and now like they're in financial ruin. You don't want that to happen with Milan. So like, I think looking for outside investment before you start a stadium build, because when you're building a stadium, it's going to be hard to make an investment in the team as well. So you want to make sure you have both ends covered.
Yeah, raising capital is not a crazy thing. That's totally normal. I'm good for it. I do have a question though for Gregory Peck. Is that your real name, or are you just a fan of the actor Gregory Peck? I've been wondering that
I
for a
presume that's
while
what
now.
it is.
Yeah, been asking. He asks a question every single week, which is awesome, to be
Yeah, they're
honest,
always
because
good.
he's
Yeah.
always good ones. So yeah, I've been curious for a while.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. Yeah, I agree with what both of you guys have
Thanks,
said. I
Greg.
don't think seeking capital is particularly problematic. Like, it's not a sign of crisis or anything like that. I just think that Jerry's a smart businessman, and what he's trying to do is secure some money that will pay off the vendor loan, so the remainder of the 580 million balance that's owed to Elliot. If you don't know what the vendor loan is, search it. You'll be able to read into that, and it'll explain how the deal was structured. But that's the money that he's looking for, which he would then instantly pay off. So he's got no debt to Elliot, probably in exchange for a minority stake in the club potentially, and then that would free up all that money that he would have had to repay to put towards whatever. Of course, how any minority share purchase would be structured is a whole different thing, but presumably if it's going to be someone like InvestCorp who have been mentioned, there's been denials, but those rumors keep coming out that InvestCorp are still interested in investing in the club, then they would want a stake. But yeah, it's early days on that front at the moment. I just don't think that seeking additional funding is a bad thing, especially if it's diversifying a little bit as well, because we know how rich some of these Middle Eastern funds are. And they'll put in the money, no problem. Whereas it's always good to have money to put into infrastructure and raise the overall value of the club. Football Drawn asks, at the moment that I just realised, Calabria is 27 years old. Always felt like he's forever 23. Do you think there's value of keeping him as part of the core of this team and around the squad, even if another starter comes, or do we need a symbolic change of captain to clean the slate?
He's been captain for like 2 seasons, so I don't think changing the captain will be that symbolic.
Yeah, I mean, if the question is, do we need a new right back? Then yeah, I would replace Calabria. I do think, barring this most recent performance against Atalanta, based on what I heard, but prior to that, he was on a run of really good games where me personally, I was like, okay, I don't have that like lingering worry of Calabria in the starting 11 anymore that I did most of last season, and then now I guess I should have it again. So yeah, get us another one. It's the same thing with Teo. Obviously, we had the Miranda deal done now. Yet to be seen if it's going to be immediately in January or not. But he needs some competition. Florenzi is not competition to Calabria. Let's be real. So he needs someone to kind of challenge him and push him to be better. I don't know
I
if
would
that
have
answers the
liked.
question or not.
Well, it's a tough question, isn't it? Because it's not just a case of stripping of the captaincy is a tough thing to do. I think with the way that we do it as well, where you give it to the most capped player, and generally somebody who's come through the academy, that makes it difficult. However, if the question then shifts to, would Calabria be okay with playing a more rotation role, and not being an every game starter if we sign someone new, then I think the answer is probably yes. I think for one of the things that you can't fault about Calabria is that he's always kept his head down, even when that starting spot wasn't his, when he lost it to like Andrea Conti and other players in that time. Yeah, like he stuck in there, and when there were rumors about him being sold to like Cagliari for a few million euros, he fought and he got his starting spot back. We know the levels that he's capable of, and his ceiling is one of the best fullbacks in the league, and that's going forward as well. He does get involved in goals, but his floor seems to be pretty low at the moment, to the extent where it can cost games, and that is not ideal. I think the management know, because there's no room for sentimentality anymore with this lot. I think they know that an upgrade is probably needed in that position. We saw links with Singo over the summer, Fresneda. There's been other links like with the right back at Girona, I believe. So I think we're looking at them, and if an opportunity comes up, we will try to upgrade in that position, because Calabria is not going to kick up a fuss if he has to rotate and he plays less games, hopefully. I don't think he'll be strict to the captaincy, though. I think he'll remain the captain, and whoever's the vice captain will probably end up then wearing the armband more.
This might be a controversial one, but I would like to see us go after Di Lorenzo when his contract expires. I know he's getting older, but I think he's been fantastic, and it's still an Italian. Now, would it come? Probably not. I think Napoli's created their little rivalry with us in their head, but I think it would be a good addition.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I think that would be a tough one to pull off. But I'd like to see us go for someone younger. I think you can make an argument that going for another Di Lorenzo type signing would be like signing another Florenzi.
Same.
But he's better. Obviously, he's better. But I think we'd need to look. There's the Kalulu question as well. Where do we really see him playing long term? I think the answer's centre back. We know he can play both, but was the vision always eventually to have Kalulu at right back because of his defensive qualities complementing Teo's more attacking qualities? But we're not going to have him until March or whatever, February, so we won't know. Okay, final question comes from Lab Gorilla. Imagine you're a wealthy Arab state. Which club looks more interesting as an investment opportunity in your opinion, Milan or Inter? We have posted 6 million in profits but are in acute decline on the pitch, while Inter post 85 million in losses but are winning trophies.
I think we're the much more we're the better pitcher, whatever the terminology was, because of the profit, right? If you're looking to buy something, you don't really care about where their current success is because the idea is that you're going to be investing to create that success. So if they're already successful, then you have to find a way to maintain that while also reducing your cost to make that profit, which is significantly harder than coming into something that's already profiting and making it better while maintaining the profit. I think you could grow that easier. So it would be us because they take over Inter. Not only are they paying for the price of the club, but they immediately have to pay off 600 million or whatever their default debt is.
That would
then
go
they
into
gotta
the cost of the club,
Yeah,
though.
but that's what I'm saying. Like it would be so much greater than us. It would just be whatever we're valued at. So
I don't know if the answer is either of us because normally when these Arab states are going in and buying teams, they're not buying teams that are already in the top four.
yeah, well, and you look at what Piff said or whatever that from the bot Newcastle, they looked at both Milan clubs and said it's not feasible to go to Serie A anymore. I think the main issue is the league. If a Saudi club or a Saudi firm wants to buy Serie A and make it a league that actually knows what the fuck it's doing, that's best case scenario for everyone,
Could you
probably.
imagine?
But God, that'd be so nice.
Yeah, like Serie A is coming up to its own crossroads in the sense that there's going to be another TV rights deal to negotiate, and the problems with lots of teams getting a new stadium, and just like everyone moving into the 21st century has taken so much longer than it should have done in Serie A. But that's almost its own separate thing. I think that we will look incredibly investable once the stadium project is secured. Now, what we see off the back of that remains to be seen. Like it might be that that someone looks to invest in us in exchange for something to do with the stadium. Jerry might look to cash out even before the stadium's built, which I know seems daft because he's spoken so much about the revenues that the stadium will bring in. But it might be that just having that project in place and finally bricks being laid raises the value of the club enough for him to get a profit and get out. I don't know what the long-term future of the club looks like, to be honest, but between us and Inter, when you consider that these funds do financial assessments more so than, oh, they got a shiny gold trophy last season, like it's obviously us. Like we are pretty close to a blank slate in terms of that we can afford for our costs to go up and the wage bill can inflate and we can secure extra revenues with a new stadium and all that stuff. Whereas Inter are burdened with debt and they've got an aging squad that is going to require quite a lot of investment while they have to sell star players, and their credit rating is so bad that they're going to struggle to get loans for building a new stadium. Like it's us 100 times over. As a fan, though, I'd rather win the trophies. I am not holding up a checkbook in the air and saying get in first place. But yeah, good question. We'll wrap it up there. We got to an hour. Thank you to everyone for listening. Appreciate this has been a bit downbeat mood-wise, but look, it's a reflection. It's a microcosm, a little distillation of where the fan base is at the moment. We're struggling for enthusiasm, aren't we? But Who knows? Could have all changed by Wednesday. I've been your host, Ollie Fisher. Find me on Twitter at Ollie Fisher. AJ, cheers for joining.
Yep. I should be here next week. I know my appearances have gotten worse and worse over the last couple of weeks, but there's good reason and it will improve. So yeah.
There's a good reason and a what?
And it will improve.
Oh. Yeah, I'll be here. I've been Mr. Reliable, so.
Which is weird because you're the one out of everyone who actually gave us a reason, said, "Hey, I'm out," and
Yeah.
now you're not. So.
Well, the replacement search is still going on, so.
Oh, okay, that's what it is. Yeah, no one else reliable in the chat that we could use. So.
Where's Fred when you need him?
Applications, info@SempreMilan.com.
People will send them as well.
I know.
People will send them.
They already do.
Yeah, they do, yeah, and I feel really bad when I have to be like, oh, it's just kind of our thing, we're friends above all, and often our schedules change so much that trying to arrange a time to go in advance just doesn't happen. It's normally like a text, like, are we going in an hour then? And that's it. That's a peek behind the wall of the SempreMilan.
That's why there's so many yawns, because it's so early most of the time for us.
It's
11
11
and I have the
a.m.
lights on because it's dark outside.
No, I know. Today is not. But, yeah.
See you in a week's time.
Gol! Ancora Teo! È una meraviglia! Il gol di Teo Hernandez da un'area all'altra! È una meraviglia! Senti il